What's going on, all you D-weebs? It's Brandon here, and I am not alone in this video. I am joined by your D-League Commissioner. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, what's poppin', guys? You got Troy. And with high demands, we are going to be putting out some D-League draft recap, power rankings, whatever you want to call it.
So obviously because it's just the two of us working, we would like to point out that this video will contain opinions, so it's usually best to state that when at the beginning, because some people might get mad. But again, this is just our opinions as well. We kind of went and did the liberty of making one list instead of each having our own list and going back and forth and losing track of where we are. So it's kind of an average list between the two of us. There are some teams that I think I would have ranked a little bit higher on this list. I'm sure Troy feels the same way, but
for sure.
Either way,
if you disagree with us, just feel free to prove us wrong.
Yeah,
looking for a good season.
Yeah, obviously. Best way to shut us up is to show us up with your play. And again, this is also just strictly based on team composition. We're not taking into account the players per se. If your team is ranked lower, it's because, and you feel that you should be ranked higher, it's mostly because Troy and I just don't really like the look of the team per se. So there's not too much to worry about that.
Doesn't particularly mean it's like a bad team at all, because there's plenty of good teams this season that I'm excited to see. But yeah.
All right, let's hop into it, starting with number 16, which is the Boston Celebes, coached by Angel. So the first thing I noticed about this team was that it's very clearly meant to be, like, it just looks like a Gen 6 team, but like the power creep is obvious. As we found out, the power creep is obviously real. And like if you just look at it, his only breaker is like immediate breaker is Hoopa Unbound, which is full of its own flaws. Granted, Hoopa with webs is pretty scary, but like then that means you're bringing Araquan into every game, which means that bringing Manaphy to every game isn't fantastic. Also, round 1 Manaphy, I kind of thought we were past that stage, but
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Troy.
Even like his bulk, like sure he's lacking offense, but like even his bulk isn't really looking that good. Like he has Gudra that can't really heal itself. He has, as well as Metagross that can't really heal itself, and then Araquanid. And he doesn't really have any form of Cleric outside of Jolteon. That's not really something you're going to be bringing every week, a Wish Passer, or the majority of the weeks. So his bulk is mainly going to be relying on some stuff like Mega Venu, Arcanine, and Gliscor. And for sure, that's okay, but it's nothing you want to be relying on every week.
Yeah, especially when like none of those three are resistant to rocks. One of them's weak to it, actually. And on top of that, his only defogger on the entire team is Gliscor, and that's a big problem because Gliscor definitely doesn't want to run defog every week, especially when his only 2 rockers on his team are Metagross and Gliscor as well. So that Gliscor is like super duper pressured.
Really a lack of entry hazards, to be honest.
Yeah. Also, something we didn't really mention before, like when we were trying to figure out the rankings, he just doesn't have a fairy, like, at all.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, that's really necessary.
Opposing dragons are going to be a huge problem, especially when, like, because your own dragon is Gudra, and Gudra's not exactly the best Scarfer, especially when, like, a lot of them, when they set up a Dragon Dance, they're just going to be faster than Scarf Gudra anyways. So, like, dragons are going to be a huge problem. Like, his only resist is Metagross. So, like, between like his 2 hazard setters being like forced to defog sometimes, or just like even bringing rocks at all, to Metagross being literally your only dragon to resist, those rockers are going to be super duper pressured. And yeah, I don't know, like to the new eye to competitive Pokemon, or at least to Draft League, it looks like a pretty good team. Like it hits all of like the check marks, like he has like all of his cores.
Yeah, the check marks.
Like as much as I didn't want to be sort of insulting, like if you look at a fan of A Drive would look at this and think it's a really good roster, but like it's just kind of a mess.
It lacks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. This seems like pretty underwhelming, which was kind of why we put it as low as we did. But yeah, Angel, try to prove us wrong this season. Show us that you can use this team really well. But yeah, shall we move on to our number 15?
We shall.
All right. So our number 15 is Supreme Sean, coach of the Elsa Craig Cutie Flies. Now, for those who don't know, Sean and I are pretty good friends IRL, so I know him. I like to think I know him pretty well. And this is very much a Sean team, but my God, it's just so whack. And he even admitted it looks like a mess.
I mean, that's what makes a Sean team a Sean team.
Yeah, I mean, look at last season. His team was pretty messy last season too.
For sure.
But yeah, the one thing I will say is that for me, when I say a team's a mess, it just means it's a very offensive team, and it's definitely that.
It is definitely that.
The main issues I see is that Doug Trios is literally his only rocker, and that's a huge problem because like if you're using Doug Trio to set rocks, that means it's not trapping anything in the game and like killing the thing that needs to be killed. So you literally are pigeonholing Doug Trio in like every single game. The lack of immediate power is obviously there. I mean, Cortana has a huge attack stat, but like there's very obvious defensive counterplay to a Cortana. The only really thing that's saving this for me is that like his just repeat setup sweeper after setup sweeper might be a little bit too much for some teams to handle, but I mean that remains to be seen.
It honestly depends. Yeah, that's the only reason he's above Angel. Is his offense could be a lot because Zygarde, Kartana, and Gyarados, as well as like Dougie, Azu, and Breloom, could be really scary on paper to certain teams, but we're just gonna have to see. As long as you prep well, you should be able to get past this team, which is the problem. And not only is Dougie like his only rocker, but it's his only Mon that gets a hazard in general. He has no hazards.
That doesn't surprise me at all, I'll say. To be fair though, his defoggers are all right. Like his removal's all right. Like obviously Kartana is not going to defog, but like Comfy and Crobat are fine removing hazards, and
wouldn't say it's anything too special.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Kamala can spin if he really needs it to, even though I know he's just gonna bring a Bandit every time he brings it. So, yeah, not too much to say. It looks like a mess because it's so offensive, but again,
there's
like just
little to no synergy as well, which is a big problem.
It's kind of weird for me to see like he actually, funnily enough, I'm in like my home league with him right now, and he's actually using Zygarde plus Mega Gyarados in that league as well. I find it odd to me, and Comfy's on that team too, actually. I just find it weird because like both of them do basically the same thing. They both just set up Dragon Dances and try to break through teams. Now, granted, that's going to be really hard. One thing that I'm just noticing now that hopefully benefits him is that like his opponents are going to are kind of pigeonholed into which hidden powers they're bringing, because like you need like HP Ice, because you need like HP Ice for Zygarde, but a lot of things are going to want HP Fire for Kartana, or like sometimes
even
HP Electric
Flying for Breloom.
Yeah, HP Flying for Breloom, or HP Electric for Gyarados before Mega Evolution if you really need it. So hopefully that kind of helps him, but we'll have to see. Definitely something where Sean's gonna have to show us him actually playing with the team that he can perform this season. I don't have any more notes on him. Do you got anything else to say?
I think we covered just about everything for his team.
All right. So let's move on then to our number 14.
14, we have Marcelo.
Yes, so Marcelo and the Boston Beartics. There's one thing, not one thing I'm going to say, but like the main thing that definitely sticks out with this roster, Zapdos as your only defogger with a team that has Victini is not fantastic. Mostly because Zapdos is also weak to rocks, so both of those things are going to be taking 25%. Especially when, like, I can't say especially when, because, like, Victini's not his only breaker. He has a Diggersby there, which can also do it. Another thing that seems weird to me is that he already has, he has a Victini and a Doug Trio, Jesus. Victini and Diggersby. And those are both, like, premier steel killers, but then he also picked up Magneton, which, like, is kind of redundant, because like you could have just picked up another like a better steel type, like just synergy wise, instead of having another thing to break down seals. Granted, you do have 2 fairies, so those steals are going to be pretty pressured by those fairies, but I don't know. It just seemed weird to have a Magneton when you already have a Victini and a Diggersby.
Yeah. I know originally he had like a Jirachi on this team, and this probably would have definitely worked better because honestly now he doesn't really have a fairy resist outside of the Magneton.
Yeah, that's actually a huge. That's actually something I didn't even see. Like, yeah, I guess his other fairy resist is Victini, but like
and Victini, yeah, but
like there's no.
That's weak to rocks,
to my
of course,
knowledge, there's it's weak to rocks and there's no Wish Pass around this team. So Victini, you're not going to be using bulky Victini very much on this team, I don't think. Also,
even like there's a big speed gap that drops off between like Victini and Buzzwole, which isn't really fun.
Oh geez, yeah, that is actually a huge issue. But also, his only rockers are Mega Diancie and Druddigon. And granted, while Mega Diancie is a pretty good offensive rocker, it's not going to always want to run Stealth Rocks, which means you're going to want to run Druddigon a lot. But like that's definitely something your opponent can take advantage of, because Druddigon in and itself isn't like, it's an okay Pokemon that offers utility, but there's going to be some Pokemon that can obviously just take advantage of it.
Druddigon usually comes to little to no games, so that being your dragon feels very unshored.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when like there's not really a fantastic fairy killer on this team. Like fairies get a pretty free switch into Buzzwole. His steel type is Magneton, which I think he could have like gotten a better thing. Like if he just had Jirachi again, like the fairy types wouldn't have been as big of an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like his first team was probably better off.
I don't even remember what he picked. I know he had Jirachi and dropped it for Magneton, but I don't remember what else he picked up.
He had Blacephalon over, I think, Victini or Zapdos. I'm not sure which one.
It was definitely Victini. He definitely had Zapdos from the start. I will say Zoroark looks pretty cool on this team, just because, like, if your check to Victini gets worn down thinking that you're switching into Victini when in reality it's Zoroark, then Victini's going to have a pretty fun time.
Yeah.
I honestly
think this is...
But honestly, other than that, I don't really have much to say. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, there's a lot more cons than pros, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of agree. So yeah, I think that's all we really had to say about Marcelo. We're trying to not make this video like a million hours long, so we're
gonna head to number 13.
Yeah. To someone who's probably gonna not like where he is.
Emperor Bredipus.
Yes. In his previous team, the Philadelphia Swirlixers. Okay. So, on the surface, this seems like a pretty good team. Like, it's a pretty decent balanced team with some pretty good breakers in the forms of like Kyurem, Mega Guard, and Volcanion, and with like web support from Galvantula, those things become immediate, like super duper, like threatening Pokemon. And then you also have that Scolipede, which can like clean up the late game. The issue I have is he has 3 very prime targets on his roster for Toxic, being the Deoxys Defense, the Hippowdon, and then I guess if the Tangela shows up, you're definitely going to want to Toxic that. And his only Heal Bell user is Mega Gardevoir.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
not a good sign.
It's an okay Heal Bell user, but Mega Guard almost always has 4 move slot syndrome anyways, so adding another thing that it's going to want to run is just a huge annoyance.
Mega Guard is typically going to be his breaker as well, aside with like Kyurem Black. Like Volk isn't coming to every game.
No, for sure.
Volk isn't that good of a breaker. It's not that good of a mon, to be honest. It really struggles with bulky waters.
I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, like, for his team specific, like, I like Volcanion definitely more than others, and I guess on Brett's team specifically, it's gonna struggle because his Electric type's Galvantula and his Grass type is Tangela, so maybe I don't really like it on his team, but even then, like, that's just another thing that some people are gonna want to Toxic as well, because they're gonna always bring in their bulky water on it.
He also has a really big hazard weakness as well. And Savali's gonna have to run Defog every week.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, he's gonna, like, his only defoggers are Volcanion and Silvally. And like, you're not gonna, speaking from experience, you're not gonna want to bring Silvally every single week. Granted, when it does, it's usually a pretty good bulky pivot. Yeah. And I think Parting Shot support on this team is really good, just because like this is like, his balance is It's like his team's like a combination of balance and bulky offense. So while like he doesn't have the super duper amount of setup, the Pokemon that he's gonna get free switches into, like the Kyurem Black and the Mega Gardevoir and the Scolipede, are gonna have a fun time when the thing that's in front of them can't damage them as hard as they potentially could.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lack of hazards. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I know there's probably going to be like a couple games where Brett can just set up hazards for free, and like Mega Guard and Kyurem Black are going to have a great time. But there's also going to be some matchups where they just really struggle. Like Deoxys D is going to get something like taunted, maybe poisoned, and that's not going to be really fun for Brett.
Yeah, no, definitely the lack of a good cleric when he has like so many Pokemon that just like have a Toxic Me sign on them is definitely going to be like a huge hindrance for him, I think. But honestly, other than like the Heal Bell and the Defogger thing, I kind of like his team.
I honestly like the structure. It feels like something.
I think I do have to say that like I like the individual Pokemon more on this team rather than like
the actual team.
Like what they create together. Like I think Kyurem's good, but like just the whole on this team is just there's something weird. There's something off about it. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right, so then let's move on to number 12 again.
Let's head to the other ego.
Yeah, someone I don't think who will like being here, which is the Inglewood Infernape, coached by King Clyde. Troy, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. So, Mega Lottie Bulu Tren seems like a solid core on paper, but then you head to like his next few picks, and it feels like a lot of his picks aren't really supported well on his team. Like the Mamo, that's his main form of offense. Tren and Bulu and all those Mons are like iffy if they want to be offensive. And just Mamo doesn't really have a fun time wanting to be an offensive Mon, something like a Scarf or maybe Life Orb, because that's mainly his offensive breaker. And like just terrain with the EQ isn't going to be fun. Like I said, I keep repeating myself, but
yeah,
I appreciate the lax picks actually. When this team comes to bulk, it doesn't really fall apart at all. I feel like that's going to be something that a lot of teams are going to struggle with.
Yeah, his bulk is pretty prevalent. The one thing that I kind of have an issue with is his lack of rockers. Like you said, his main breaker in the season is, like, looking on paper, it's Mamoswine and I guess to an extent Bulu, because, like, obviously not much wants to take a Banded Woodhammer. But, like, his only rockers are Mamo and Heatran. And, like,
yeah.
Mamo's already going to struggle enough breaking when Bulu has that grassy terrain up. So then also wanting to have, like, rocks on there is just going to kind of be a pain in the ass. And, like basically all you're doing with Mamo in an entire game is setting up rocks. And then that kind of feels bad. And then on the other hand, Heatran almost always has 4 move slot syndrome when Heatran comes, especially when it's Z. So, yeah, I don't know. Lack of rockers, not very good.
Yeah.
Also, his lack of defoggers also kind of concerns me because his defoggers are Mega Lottie and Torn. Mega Lottie literally never wants to run defog. Torn, I mean, still doesn't really want to run defog. And like the issue with that is that like he's also like it looks like Clyde is also trying to be sort of like a bulky offense / balance team, but those teams just lose to hazard stacking. And, like, I haven't looked too far into it. Like, his Taunters aren't very fast, other than Tornadus, I guess. Considering, like, his other...
Clyde isn't as weak to rocks. He's not really weak to rocks, but he's mainly weak to hazard stacks. So as long as Clyde doesn't play badly and let, like, his opponent set up all 3 layers of spikes, the defog shouldn't be, like, big as a concern. It's tough.
Yeah. And I will say... I guess there was the thing of, like, Clyde not being, like, around to draft, so he kind of just let Chess draft things for him at a certain point. So, yeah. Like, while I like the Heracross pick, and I'm not bashing the Heracross pick at all, actually. It's more what came after, because I know Clyde wanted, like, a lower tier fighting type to have, like, more points left over. I am a little bit higher on Sableye than I think most people are, but I still think it's a little weird for this team. Like, he's basically only relying on Heracross to break Psychics.
Yeah. Yeah, bulky Psychics are a big problem.
Yeah.
Unless he's able to set up Calm Minds versus Lottie, but even then, bulky Psychics shouldn't really stay in versus a Lottie. They should just
No.
like click toxic and leave.
Like his lack of immediate power definitely. Well, I that wouldn't be a problem if he didn't have Bulu plus Mamo, because like Mamo's immediate power is obviously there.
Yeah,
And I guess
yeah.
like Bulu's immediate power is also there, but like you said, sometimes it's gonna want to be brought defensively. So yeah, lack of immediate power is kind of a thing. Yeah, I'm not gonna bash that. Anyways, that phrase, lack of immediate power, get used to it because I have that written for a lot of teams.
Yikes.
But yeah, I don't have much else to say about Clyde.
I
think after the first 5, like I think the first 5 picks were fine, and then like once the Mammo pick came in, it started to slowly go downhill. IMO.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to move on?
We'll move on to number 11.
All right. So number 11, we have Ian, or Electricity, coach of the Ladner Lantern. Now, I'll admit I'm a little bit higher on this team than I think Troy is. I think just the rain at the end was fantastic. Like I think he just has like, whenever I see a rain team, I always see it like too committed to rain, but not this team. Like I think it's like just the perfect amount. Like you have like the obvious rain core of like Pelipper and Swampert, but then like you just have like the small synergies of like Heliolisk's Dry Skin, Torn's never gonna miss Hurricanes in the rain, and then also just like Scissor's fire weakness being like sort of dampered. Those are like, I don't know, those are like the big things that I like about his team. I'm gonna let you talk because there's a few longer topics that I want to talk about it after.
One big problem I have about this team is the lack of hazards. I know that's a big problem we've had with a lot of the bottom teams. The only reason this team is really higher than the bottom teams is just because the offense is just really solid. But the hazards are a big problem. Only Necro is the rocker, as well as Megapert. But Megapert is forced into this role of like a rain sweeper or a rain breaker, or whatever you want to call it. And what else do I have a problem with this team? Also, a form of a cleric is going to be heavily relied on guard. So that tampers with his offense a little bit. Mainly his offense is going to be like Torn, Hydra, and then sometimes Scizor, and then Pert. So, I guess. Yeah, those are the main problems I have with this team.
Also, Monferno was a rocker. Let's not forget that, Troy.
Monferno is not a pick. Haha.
No, I think it's a fine 1-pointer. Like the only issue I see with Monferno is that like every time Ian wants to bring it, it's gonna have to run rocks.
Yeah.
Okay. There's one more thing that I want to talk about that's like kind of about draft as a whole, but pertains to Ian in this case, which is the round 1 Tornadus. Don't get me wrong, I think Tornadus is a fine Pokemon, and like I've said previously, the meta's kind of in a place where like it's shifted away from bulky offense and more to balance. And Torn does well against both. Like Torn does well against balance because it outspeeds a lot of the offense and is able to beat down the offense, as well as be able to stall break all of like the defensive parts of balance. Yeah. So I understand how like it's becoming a round 1 pick more often, but it does like you can't build a team around Tornadus. Tornadus is always meant to be like a support pick for something else, and building a team around it is so difficult. And realistically, the only way that I think I could have seen it happen is basically due to rain, like Ian did, but I'm still, like, I think Torn's fine, don't get me wrong. I'm still not a fan of it round 1. I'm also...
Yeah, even then, still not, like, full out rain.
No, it isn't. I'm a little bit underwhelmed with Z Hydra. I had actually that exact same Z core when I was in D-League. You're always almost going to run Z Torn. Like, I mean, I guess Z Hydra looks really good on the surface, but like Z Torn is just too good, and you're always gonna bring it.
Hydra would rather have like free items.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, that was my rant about Torn round 1. I'm not dissing Torn. I'm not really dissing Ian for taking it. I just don't think it's a fantastic round 1 pick when other things could have maybe formed a team better. Anyways, I don't want to make it seem like I'm dishing on Ian, but. I'm just not a big fan. Anyway, right. I'm just not a big fan of that round 1 pick. Anyways, moving on to number 10. Why don't you bring it? Why don't you start us off with there?
All right, we have Tampa Bay Buzels, coached by Fizz.
Did you say
And
Beezles?
Buzels.
Buezels.
Beezels, what?
Whatever. Just go.
All right. So I think pretty highly of this team. I honestly like the core of Chomp Nape, and then he also gets to spike stack with the Pharaoh, and then he also has really late game Mimikyu. And I feel like this supports Mega Pidgeot really well, as well as he's able to break Electrics really well, because those are going to be the main things that are revenging Mega Pidge. With Chomp, Nihilego, even Pharaoh, it forces Electrics to run like different hidden powers. That's another thing I like about this team is the quad weakness stack just a little bit. And then even like Mesprit as a rocker, it's looking pretty solid. And Umbreon as the cleric. Yeah, so I don't really have many bad things to say about this team. He definitely has a lot of hazard support.
Yeah, like there's 12 Pokemon on this team, and 6 of them learn Stealth Rock.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, to be fair, that also frees Pharaoh from having to run rocks. He can be spikes instead. And then that lets Nihilego be toxic spikes. So, like, hazard sagging isn't a problem. I agree with all of, like, the positive things you said about this team. It's just, for me, the lack of immediate breaking power is what kind of holds me back from ranking this team just slightly high. Like, again, I'm also pretty high on this team, but also, like, there's some other teams that, like, I like a lot coming up. So, like, it's like the combination of lack of immediate power and, like, how much I like the other teams. I think kind of put Fizz a little bit lower than maybe he should have been. But, I mean, let's be real. Fizz will prove us wrong. Not only in his play, but also whenever we post this video, he's going to rag on us in the UPA Discord. 100%.
Goats!
Yeah, I don't have much to say about it. I just there's something off about it, about like the immediate breaker. It seems like everything else wants to set up to break.
There's not like one clear wall breaker. Like there's nothing that can really taunt for free. I don't think does Nape get taunt? No.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, there's a lot of bulky psychics that. Yeah, I guess that's another main problem, or the bulky psychics. Those are going to be switching in a lot. Fat psychics like Crest.
I mean, to be fair, he does have Mimikyu, which can like.
He does have Mimikyu, but that's not going to want to be popping a disguise for free.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, Umbreon. I'm not a big fan of Umbreon. Like, I get that like the Wish support's pretty good for Ferrothorn and Mesprit, but like, it's so passive that I'm just not a big fan. Like, this team just looks like this team kind of looks like it gets eaten up by Reuniclus, assuming Mimikyu's disguise gets popped. But yeah, anyway.
Also, Z-Grottle.
I mean, to be fair, he couldn't Z Garchomp and Infernape together. That wasn't a legal option. So like, obviously the next best thing is Chomp Mimikyu, and then he just had the 1 point left over, so why not?
Hey, dude, mad respect.
Mad respect for the Z Grottle pick. All right, let's move on to the last team in the bottom half, which is Ishan, coach of the Los Angeles Charizards. And yeah, again, like, this is another team that I still like. It's just like there are some other teams that I really like higher than this, so it was kind of difficult to rank it slightly higher. Firstly, Mega Gallade is broken. That Mon is actually insane in draft format. But then after that, you pick Clefable, which is like the worst Pokemon in draft format.
Which is also broken with Mega Gallade. Don't listen to him.
No,
he's corrupt.
No. Clefable's Garbo.
Nah.
Anyway.
You're high. What are you smoking?
I have never smoked a weed in my life, Troy.
Crazy.
But anyways, he originally had Bronzong and Licky together. But then when Marcelo dropped the Jirachi, he swiftly picked that one up. We're on split fences. Troy liked the team better before. I liked the team better after.
I've grown on Rachi a little bit. He kind of needed a little bit more something that could be offensive and bulky. But he did pass out a cleric, which is going to be a Clef and Rachi, which are going to be mainly the Wish Passers, which isn't that bad. So yeah, I guess I like the Rachi pick more now that it's grown on me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing we did point out when we were trying to figure out these rankings was that his team's probably going to have trouble, similar to Fizz's, dealing with bulky psychics.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the difference
Pangoro.
is, like, yeah, like, I mean, Pangoro is all right. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But
And Delmice,
but in all seriousness though, like, a lot of bulky psychics are just going to be set up fodder for Suicune and Jirachi. Like, if the best thing
unless you want to flinch it down.
I mean, that
means.
is another option. Yeah, you could just like Thunder Wave it and then spam Iron Head. So like, I don't know. Maybe psychics aren't the worst thing in the world. His Zmons, not a big fan. Like Noivern and Pangoro, like, I guess, but then like you just have so many left over, but like kind of nowhere to go. He gave it to Nidoking, but I don't think.
He has like no standout Z move user, and I feel like that's a problem. Like a big problem, because like this meta is just heavily relying on Z moves.
Oh, 100%.
You just need one big hit that can kill something, and that's going to be the Nidoking, ladies and gents.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Sheer Force isn't even boosted by Z move.
Actually, it is, but only with Z moves with secondary effects, which Nidoking does not get any of.
Okay, let's give it the Muninium Z.
Yeah, I mean, it can't use it. But I mean, like, I think his lack, he does. I said lack, Jesus Christ. The one thing I do like about Ishan's team is that, like, he actually has immediate breakers, like Nidoking and Darm together are like, just like once they hit the field, someone's gonna be like, oh fuck, I need to figure out an answer for this. Whereas like something with like Jirachi, Suicune, or even Clef, like they're gonna have time to figure out how they're gonna deal with it. Whereas like you might not always. Anyways, you know what I mean. The other thing I like is the Ditto pick, because like things like Clef and Suicune are like super duper passive, so something could set up in front of them. But like Ditto, just sure his opponent can get the free kill, but then Ditto will just come in. Yeah, I don't know. There's not too much. I don't have too much written down for this.
One more thing I want to cover is just he also struggles with a lot of like bulky flying. Something like a Torn could be difficult. Like his flying answer is going to be the Rotom.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I exactly feel about that.
I'm kind of seeing that like Clef is like super pressured in this game to like be the sponge for all the offense that's going to be thrown his way. Because like there's nothing else that can really sponge hits as well as Clef can on this team. Like maybe Suicune, but then that's under the assumption that he's like not a setup Suicune variant, which is generally not.
Yeah, and there's gonna be some matchups where he's gonna want to run setup Clef, and that's just gonna be like a big pain for the team.
Yeah, which is why, in my opinion, he should drop Clef, because it's a garbage mon. Ishan, just get a different fairy other than Clefable.
It's not a garbage mon. Yes, you're smoking.
No, it's absolute doo-doo. But Mega Gallade's broken, so it's okay. Mega Gallade's like legitimately broken. That mon is so good. Anyways, I'm done ranting about Clefable. Shall we move on? Unless you have other things to say.
No, I think that just about covered this team.
Alright, so we will move on to the number 8. So we're moving into the top half of the league. And we're starting it off with the Memphis Zizlies, coached by our good pal Chess Ben. Troy, do you want to start with this one? I've kind of been starting a lot of them.
Yeah, very, very wacky draft. He does pick up Uxie with the Lando, which takes away one big Lando counter. One thing you're going to be seeing is Lando I really struggles with something like a levitating bulky psychics, which you definitely see plenty of. You see something like a Crest, you see something like a Bronzong. So it's nice that he picked up the Uxie, and then he also has stuff that breaks down the bulky psychics relatively well, like the Mega Scizor and the Decidueye. I'm a big fan of that Decidueye pick. He also has a really fun U-turn Volt Turn core. He has a lot of U-turners. As you can see, like half of his draft gets U-turn. Lando, Talon, Mega Sizz, Uxie, Decidueye, and then he also has Volt Switch with the Exert, which I feel Zerk is...
Even has Baton Pass with Sylveon if he really wants to.
Oh yeah, he even has like Baton Pass. Yeah, so he has a lot of momentum, which is something I really like with the Lando I. One thing I definitely see Chess struggling with is his main form of bulk is going to be the Sylveon and the Uxie. The rest is just going to be bulky offense / offense. So that's going to be kind of tough, especially since Sylveon and Uxie are going to be really pressured to switch into something like strong fightings.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I'm not sure where his bulk's going to go. He's going to have to be taking a big offensive approach.
Yeah, I think Sylveon's going to be pretty pressured. Which, like, granted, I think like wish support for Uxie is fantastic with the Jesus Christ, with the Sylveon. One thing that I'm not a fan of is his rock options. Lando's almost never going to want to run Stealth Rocks. Uxie's like his most reliable one because his other rocker is Sand Slash, and like if you have a Lando, you're almost never going to want to bring Sand Slash just because then like HP Ice becomes pretty free for your opponent's team. Even though, like, again, like, Chess kind of did the whole stacking 4 times weakness things. Or at least, like, stacking 4 times weakness with, like, his huge threats with, like, the Lando and the Scizor. Which then he did bring double waters to be able to resist both of those. Which Sylveon's going to be even more pressured to do, considering that neither Keldeo nor Tentacruel has recovery on its own. Again, like, kind of his lack of immediate power, like, it's really only Lando that's, like, super immediately threatening.
Debatably Zerk. I feel Zerk is supported pretty well this team.
I mean, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess with Keldeo and Decidueye, they can pressure the grounds a lot, so I guess that frees up Zerk. But then, like, you have to be, like Zerk almost always has to be Z every week, whether it's Z, like, speed boosting move or, like, just Tail Glow plus Gigabolt Havoc. But again, that still requires like a setup turn to be like threatening. And it's just a Lando with like the Sheer Force Life Orb and shit. Because like even with Mega Sizz, he's gonna want to SD, and same thing with the Talonflame. The only other things I could maybe think of are like Specs Keldeo and Specs Sylveon, but he's definitely not gonna want to bring Specs Sylveon every week. Maybe he can get away with bringing Specs or Life Orb Keldeo a lot, but then at that point it just becomes predictable. There's not too many bad things I have to say about this team. Once I slowly wrote down less and less about the teams as we kind of went up, because like
team.
Go ahead.
It's like the definition of middle of the pack.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. One thing that never mind. I was gonna say lack of priority, but I mean he has Sneasel, Decidueye, and fucking Mega Sizz. Never mind. I'm actually stupid.
This team isn't like overwhelmingly good, but it's not like terrible.
No, it's definitely definition of middle of the pack. But yeah, I like it just enough to put it above the other teams. Like mostly Fizz and Ishan, put it above them. I think it's just slightly better. But yeah, let's move on to someone close to Chess in the draft, which is our number 7, Venoxio, or Veno, coach of the Gerdurians of the Galaxy. Oh, right, Chess and Veno, both of you. Get a bigger logo. Your logos are like super duper tiny and end up pixelated on the thing that I had to make. So get bigger logos.
Yeah, Chess sent me his logo from his phone, like Jesus.
Alright, you take this one first again, Troy.
Alright, so Coco first pick. Obviously, that's like one of the best mods in the format, so you can't really go wrong with that. It's not that tough to build a team around Coco. He has Weavile, which can break the bulky grasses, as well as Coco Lucha. Really, really good. And then Mega Chomp, I'm a little iffy on, but because Mega Chomp is like another.
I have to say, it felt like really early for him to pick up Mega Chomp. Like I honestly think that could have been undrafted.
Sure. Yeah, round 4. That's he could have gotten some better picks, but overall his team is looking pretty good. But either way, and then he also has like Slowbro, has really solid bulk as well as Shaman. Shaman deals with bulky waters really well, so it takes a lot of pressure off of Coco being the bulky water answer. Because of course Shaman can't really get status because you can switch, and even like Leech Seed pass into like Coco or Mega Chomp is looking really good. And then he picked up Registeel, which I feel like it's a really good cheap steal that can get up rocks for Veno for pretty much free. As well as Toad, which is another thing that can get up rocks really well. And then Drapion, I'm not really sure what he was going for there, because he already has Salazzle being a poison and the Weavile being a dark. And then Grand Bull is a really solid fighting switching that takes a lot of pressure off of Slowbro.
Yeah.
One thing I really have problem with is a big speed gap, I guess, because Shaman isn't really going to be running a lot of speed. It's mainly going to be his defensive mon. So there's like a speed gap of, I believe it was Salazzle to Mega Chomp. So
I'm looking. It's Salazzle to Drapion, which is like, yeah, it's still pretty big.
that's still pretty big.
Yeah, I agree with the. I think Seismitoad on offensive teams like this is like super duper undervalued. Like just having a pivot that can always take one hit and set up rocks for you guaranteed is always nice. The one thing I do have a problem is like Mega Chomp being like the only like real breaker. I guess he has a Weavile too. And I guess there's not really a whole thing about him like needing, quote unquote, needing the priority. Considering he has like Coco Lucha, which is like probably at this point the best speed control in the game. But I don't know. I guess it all stems back to I'm not a big fan of Mega Garchomp. Like yes, it's bulky, but like I don't know. It just seems as like that being like going to be your main mid game breaker is just like it just seems off. As well, his bulk is like kind of almost too passive.
Yeah.
Like I can definitely see like his bulk, like his Slowbro to a lesser extent, but like Granbull and especially Registeel, like those things are gonna get set up on a lot. And if you look at like the rest of Veno's team, like setup plus priority on a Pokemon looks like super duper threatening to Veno's team. Like, I mean, he plays a Scizor week 1. I don't know if he plays Fizz, but like that Infernape looks really good against him. Yeah, like literally just any Pokemon that gets access to both some form of setup and priority, I think is just like, even just honestly like priority in general, just kind of looks dangerous to him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is one of the main things I have a problem with on like, I guess balance in general, but mostly offense. But yeah, I don't know. I still like this team. It's just like the small nitpicks at this point.
Hey, if Mammo wasn't under grassy terrain, that's a 6.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even. Yeah, actually, maybe. Who knows? Anyways, I'm done talking about Veno's team. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah. No, I think that's it.
Okay. Why don't you introduce our number 6 then?
All right. Number 6, we have Ange, coach of the main Absols. And she started off her draft with Mega Maw Finny. I feel like that's a super underrated core because Finny is really solid for a Mega Maw to get status free. And then she just went with a bunch of setup mons being like Volk, Tarak, Mence. So it's going to be a sort of like a bulky offensive team. Let's see. Donphan is going to be really reliable for rocks, so I feel I'm a big fan of that Donphan pick. And like even Alolan Persian is going to be really good for her setup spam with a parting shot.
Alolan Persian looks insane on this team.
The team doesn't look too good on paper, but it is. It really is.
Yeah, I can attest to that one because this team gives me like serious vibes about my main league team. Because because funnily enough, Ange originally had Dragonite instead of that Salamence, but then ended up dropping it. And like my team also had Mega Mawile, Celebi, Donphan, and Dragonite. And yeah, again, there's just something about like I said about the Seismitoad pick with Veno. It's similar to Donphan, where like you always have like just having a bulky pivot on an offense team. You're always gonna get that one turn where, in this case, Ange can either set up or take away hazards if need be. Like basically guaranteed almost always with Donphan, considering that it has Sturdy. Celebi is an underrated pick. I don't understand. Like, I don't think it deserves all of the shit that people give it. Especially when just look at the setup spam with Alolan Persian on the team. Like, it's gonna be like, I guess it doesn't have to be Calm Mind, considering that Ange has like Quiver Dance with Wolf. But like then there's also like SD Tarak and like Dragon Dance Mence, and then just even to an extent Calm Mind Finny.
U-turn into like a really fat mom like Mega Maw that can break.
Yeah, Like this team, it does look like a mess. But again, when at least for me, when I say a team looks like a mess, it just looks like it just means it's probably a decent offensive team, which is also more like prevalent with Ange picking the Porygon 2 and the Garbodor, especially with the Garbodor being able to spike stack. That's really going to help.
Yeah, Garbodor's a really underrated pick on this team.
Yeah. Again, I didn't really write too much down for this because I just like most.
I feel like one thing that Ange would have really liked is a Cleric, something that could wish past and heal Bell, because just look at her offense, that would really appreciate it.
Yeah,
can't really.
I mean, Celebi learns heal Bell, so like that's one thing. But
and even Medfiend gets the terrain up, so it's not status isn't really that big of a deal. I guess I'm talking more about like wish pass.
Yeah, for sure. That would have been pretty insane. But I guess to Ange's credit though, like Volcarona has access to Roost, same with Ments, and then Celebi also gets recover. So like the setup options can have recovery. So like the only thing that would really appreciate is Tarak. But
yeah, it's not that big of a deal. That's why
no, I don't think so.
She is number 6.
Yeah, 6.
Almost said the wrong number.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna move on to number 5 then. Someone who I still don't think would like where his ranking is.
Jesus, what an ungrateful little cunt.
Yeah, seriously. We have King Bronson, coach of the Portland Poliwags, and like I said, when I say a team's a mess, it just means it's probably a decent offensive team, and boy is Bronson's team a mess. Which is funny because like he has Celesteela but not Z, which it kind of pigeonholes it into being defensive every week. Maybe not every week, but like IMO.
Selly can still run something like an Autotomize with a Berry, and then get like a Beast Boost. That's still a possibility.
I guess.
I don't think it really pigeonholes Selly. Just like
I will say, his lack of rockers concerns me. He just has like Drill, Gigalith, and Lunatone, and I'd be surprised if Lunatone comes to a game. And like
you never know. It's Bronson.
With like I guess. With Sandstorm, well, the thing is, like, if Bronson wants to sweep with Excadrill, that means he also has to bring Gigalith. And if you're bringing Gigalith, do you really want to bring Lunatone?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like I don't know. Z Reuniclus looks a little bit odd. Not really something I've seen a whole lot of. The only
Z Reuni's pretty good because it weakens knockoff. It can break something more fat, like an Alolan Muck, even though he has a Alolan Muck. But like, you get my drift.
Yeah. Thundy, I think, is one of the best offensive Pokemon in the game because it supports your other offense while being also a threat on its own. So I think that's fine. The Gothorita,
it's also a great speed tier versus stuff like Mega Gallade.
Yeah, for sure. The Gothorita is going to be fine because the Gothorita is going to be able to trap whatever bulk is going to want to try to deter Bronson's offense.
And then whenever it comes, it'll really throw off opponents. So I feel like that's a big factor that Gothorita has.
For sure. And yeah, I'm still like, I guess like Z Thundy definitely makes sense. It's still a little weird not seeing the Z Celesteela at this point, but either way,
Thundy would rather have Z than Selly, to be honest, because Thundy most of the time it's going to be running something like a Nasty Plot Z, and then Selly would rather, because Selly's not going to be running offensive like a lot of the times. Mainly it's running something like a Leaf Seed.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think Primarina is a pretty good breaker just for this team because like Water and Fairy in general, like the stab combination together is just really hard for teams to switch into. So overall, while it looks like a mess, I think I like the team.
Yeah.
I think Troy's more high than I am.
Someone mentioned this, but like he took Selly, which is also like one of the best counters to the drill. So I guess there's that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't have much to say about Bronson's team. Bronson, no matter where we put him, if it's not number 1, Bronson's gonna complain. So
he's gonna have a fucking temper tantrum.
Oh, 100%. So yep. I'm done trying to appease why he's number 5. So shall we move on to number 4?
Yep.
All right. Why don't you take this one again, Troy?
All right, number 4, we have Manly Soapy, and I really dig the way he supports his Mega Lop and Mega Lottie. He has stuff like Scarm, which can spike stack, He has Crook, which can trap bulky psychics with Pursuit, which Lottie, Mega Lop don't like dealing with bulky psychics at all. And he has as well as more Spike Stack with Roserade. I feel like that's a fantastic pick with the Skarm. And then slow Volt Switch, as well as could be fast Volt Switch into something like one of his offensive threats with the Rotom Heat. And then just all of that bulk, it makes me nut, dude. I love Cress, I love the Vaporeon. And then the Togekiss there as well. Could be a great defogger, because Skarm, Lottie aren't going to be running defog a lot of the times. As well as even be a breaker. Togekiss can do that as well.
Oh, it's a really good stall breaker, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this team.
Yeah, remember earlier in the vid when I said the format has kind of shifted to where balance is the most prevalent archetype? Well, this is probably the most balance you could get.
Here it is.
The one thing I do like about this specific balance squad is that like a lot of his some of the things you were mentioning, like the Togekiss, the Rotom Heat, and the Roserade, and I guess to an extent the Crocodile, they could be like offensive or defensive, and like Sophie just gets to have those options like based on matchup essentially. Like he doesn't always have to bring Roserade offensively or defensively. Like he could just bring like literally whichever set he wants, just based on like because his defensive Pokemon like like his main 3 defensive Pokemon in Skarmory, Vaporeon, and Cress are just like that good. Granted, they kind of get blown back by like Bolt Beam setup, but like I don't know. There's not a lot of things in general that can take Bolt Beam hits. Honestly, like my main critique about Sophie's team is that it just looks boring because it's balanced, and it's like the same thing we've been seeing for a while. But ultimately, if it's boring, it means it works. So obviously, it just like the team looks fine, and I think Sophie's gonna have a lot of success with this. I actually wrote down nothing for Sophie's team and for the other.
It's a really solid team.
Yeah, I really like this team.
Not much to say.
Yeah, so let's move on to number 3. You want to introduce that one as well?
Sure. Let me just check what the number 3 is.
Oh, come on now.
Scrappy 10, Texas Rain Dance. He has the Lando Rotom Volturn Core. Oh yeah, more balance, by the way.
Yeah,
really fun.
Seriously.
That's what you're gonna see. You're gonna be seeing a lot of balance in these top few slots. But yeah, Rotom Lando is gonna be a really fun Volturn Core for him to play around with. Could be really fast, could be really slow. That's something Mega Medi loves. And then, as well as another thing that Mega Medi loves is the Pursuit Trap Tar. Gonna trap bulky psychics. And then there's Gengar, which can revenge bulky psychics. And there's not a lot of mons that can switch into Gengar. Gengar is like a mad underrated mon in the format.
Oh yeah.
And then he has Tangrowth for more bulk, because a lot of these mons can be offensive or defensive. Tangrowth is one of those mons that you can guaranteed be defensive. You can fire off like sleep powders, and it's a really good way to get Mega Medi in for free. And then you got more bulk. I'm not really a big fan of Fortress usually in the format, but I feel Fortress is supported really well on this team. He switches into fire insanely well. And then spike stacking is something Mega Medi loves as well. And just any team loves spike stacking. As well as Rapid Spinner. Rapid Spinner for spike stacking, because of course you're not going to be wanting to defog your own hazards away.
Yeah.
And then as well as he picked up a Cleric with Aromatisse, not bad. And then Sam is going to be the main Revenger for Mega Medi, which is something I really like. So yeah, overall another really solid balanced team.
Yeah.
I can't complain about this team as much.
Yeah, no. You were saying about like the Fortress pick being iffy, but I think it's like perfectly fine and valid for this team. Just because like the main thing that I always see happen with Fortress is like you switch it in, you set up whatever hazard you're going for as your opponent switches out into something, not necessarily always a fire type, even though that does happen sometimes, but it's usually something that wants to set up in front of Fortress. But all you have to do is just Volt Switch out on the turn they set up, and then Scrappy has a lot of options that can offensively pressure out those setup mons. If it's like a bulky thing that's setting up, Mega Medi probably breaks through it really easily. Even Zlando can just do that. But if it's something fast, then he always has Gengar, and he could be bringing like Focus Sash Alakazam to deal with it. So I really like Fortress on this team. And like you said, he switches into fire really well with the combination of like Rotom and T-Tar with Wish support, and then even just Miltank with its own Milk Drain.
Hell, even Turtonator.
Yeah, I mean, Turtonator's the one thing I don't really like on this team, but I mean, with only 4 points, what else are you going to get?
For a budget pick. He got everything he really needed to.
Yeah, for sure. Like exactly. Like at that point, I don't think it really mattered what he grabbed. His team still looks really good. Yeah, not too much to say about this.
Yeah,
pretty straightforward. So let's move on to the first of our top two. So at number 2, we have the back of the wheel, which was Leo, coach of the Mexico City Wallbreakers. I know I've let you talk first about the last few coaches, but there's a reason I want you to talk about this first, and that's because you also had the back wheel and took Mega Zamzera Aura together in main league.
Yeah, my brother copied me.
Yeah.
But honestly, Mega Zamzera is so spooky for a back wheel pick. You can debate that none of these two are like a first round pick, even though like Mega Zam is making its way to like first round. But yeah, these two are definitely a really solid core. Like this is pretty much the definition of speed control. And then you got Syrup to break down bulky grounds for Zera, and then he also got Nidoqueen to be like a toxic spike stacker as well, just bulk in general. And Klefki, dude, Klefki is a great pick. I wish I got Klefki during main season, but I got sniped. Klefki is just so great with Mega Zam and Zera because it just sets up a spike for free pretty much. Every time it comes in on something like a bulky fairy, it clicks spikes for free. You can't really debate with me on that one. And then Kamo, bulky dragons are just really good on this team. Yeah. You can also set up rocks, which it is his first rocker besides Nidoqueen. So Kamo and Nidoqueen are really, really reliable rockers because they're just hella bulky. NTS the fairy switch-ins, like I said, Klefki can switch into the fairies for Kamo and just set up spikes for free, as well as like maybe even throw off a T-Wave. It gives him his first form of priority as well, priority T-Wave, priority Toxic, unless you want to count Fake Out Zera. And then just the Mandibuzz is a great slow U-turner into Zera and Mega Zam. That's another thing I wanted main season, but I got sniped because main league is not bad. It doesn't let me get this good team. And even Blastoise, that's another type of mon that I'm iffy on with certain drafts, but normal Stoise is just really good. It gives them a fire resist, so Kamo doesn't have to be a fire resist. Doesn't have to rely on being a fire resist, as well as it gives him a spinner, which is really solid because he doesn't really want to be relying on defog every week to get rid of hazard stack for the Moltres. So Rapid Spin is really good for his own hazards. And then he just took advantage of a really low budget. He got really good low budget picks. Lycanroc finally gives him priority outside of like the priority status. And I feel Lycanroc is definitely one of the better priority users in the format. Moltres is a really good budget pick. It's a really good breaker. It's whenever teams are like really under prep for it, that's when it puts in work the most. And then Mush and Wigglytuff are just wow picks. I love Mush and Wigglytuff.
Oh yeah.
What do you think of the team?
Again, more balance. I think this one, out of the top 4 teams, I think this is like the closest thing to bulky offense you would get. But yeah, I definitely like his budget picks. Like I think I'm higher on Musharna than most people are. I think it's just like super duper undervalued. And obviously like Lycanroc is an insane value pick, and Moltres as well. I have Moltres myself in main league, and I've been doing some calcs already, and man, it's like even without Z, it's just like it can break shit that you didn't expect it to break. The one thing I'm not a big fan on is like the Blastoise. Like, yes, I do like the Rapid Spin support it provides, but I'm not a big fan of how it's like super passive. That being said, most teams are gonna try to obviously aim electric attacks at it, but Zeraora and Nidoqueen are not Pokemon that you want to bring basically allow a free switch into. So I think as far as like that's concerned, the Blastoise is covered fine. And yeah, I think you covered all the other points that that I was gonna bring up as like good points for Leo's team. Leo's team is really good. Is basically the point I was trying to make. Was there something else? Maybe not having Z Moltres, but then you couldn't have Z Lycanroc.
Lycanroc.
Yeah. However, I'm surprised he didn't do like Z Zeraora and along with Z Komao. I think that would have been pretty insane.
I don't think Kamo is going to be running Z a lot. Mainly if it's like a Dragon Dance, if it's an offensive set, it's usually going to be running something like a Roselli, maybe a Yachi. But yeah, Kamo takes fairy moves pretty well with a Roselli.
Yeah, I guess.
And just it's a good fairy alert if they're not expecting it.
Yeah, I suppose. Oh yeah, overall I like this team.
Yeah,
so,
love it.
Shall we move on to our number one pick? No, I guess number one
First
team.
pick.
Funny
Yep,
enough,
first
I mean,
team.
obviously, if you guys are, if you're watching this and in D League, you know who it is. If you're watching this and you're not in D League, I'm not sure why you're watching this. But it's Birmingham Vulpix, coached by DS Gaming. So, I love this team. Again, it's kind of more balanced, but that's perfectly fine because just like this team has everything. Like it has insanely good rockers, it has good removal, it has like a very good balance of like setup and immediate power. I guess immediate power is like the one thing that I would like critique DS on. Like his only real thing is like Entei, and that's a little bit underwhelming. But he also has two of the best stall breakers in the format in Mew and in Mega Arrow. So like fat shit isn't really that big of a problem for his team. And then on top of that, he has like one of the most I guess not really underrated, but like people have stopped drafting Haxorus, but everyone knows that at +1 it's still fucking insane.
Very spooky.
Yeah, so I love having that option, especially with Z. Having the double water hazard stack is actually insane. He has 3 spikes users. That's actually insane.
Yeah, and 2 toxic spike users.
Yeah.
So if there's a team with no ground and poison, you already know what click.
Oh, for sure. And then like he even got a rapid spinner for good measure, so he never has to fucking, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to defog his own hazards away. There's just like, and the speed tiers are also really good. Other than like, obviously there's like the big gap between like Greninja and Mega Arrow, but like there's not really much you can do about that.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, this is also
just like
it's weird because like I'm seeing like Mew Mega Arrow get spammed everywhere.
Yeah.
But also like it's just funny because like it's just another team that like, because Elliot has Mew, Mega Arrow, and Cobalion all on the same team. So it's just another team that looks like really familiar to us.
Yeah.
Do you got anything to say?
D-League's taking notes, but yeah, even his low budget picks, just like Leo, are like really solid. Like you said, the Quillfish and the Frostlass give him more spike stack. Then Mudsdale is a great ground and rocker. I believe DS had it last season, so he's aware of what Mudsdale can do. If you give it like a berry, maybe even Resto Chesto, there's your recovery. So yeah, Mudsdale isn't that bad when it comes to recovery. It's going to be relying on berries a lot. And yeah, even Ursaring could throw off a couple coaches each week that lack normal resists. But yeah, I think it's a really, really solid team. I think it's the best in the league, yeah.
Yeah, I really like this team a lot. I have to say, like, I think the gap between DS's and Leo's team is, like, much more significant than, like, between basically the rest of the top 4. Yeah. I think I just like DS's team a lot more than the other teams. So.
We were really able to distinguish the top 2 really easily.
Yeah, for sure. Leo and DS were definitely the top 2, but I like DS's team way more than Leo's.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've rambled on for long enough. That's gonna do it for this video. Yeah, thanks for watching. For those of you at the bottom, please try to prove us wrong. For those of you at the top, please try to prove us right. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be doing this every week. I think that's pretty tedious. Maybe.
Yeah, that's gonna be probably not.
Probably, yeah, probably not. I wouldn't
unless D-League really begs us.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing like maybe like
every 3 weeks,
like every 3 weeks. Yeah, like at week 3, week 6, and then
that
going into playoffs or
really
something.
reasonable.
I think that would be a lot better, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be okay with doing that. So yeah, if you agree with us, that's great. If you disagree with us, please let us know, whether in the comments of this video or just on Discord or whatever. Or if you have like other questions about why we ranked you where you did, again, feel free to ask us. Yeah, I think that's it. Anything else from you, Troy?
One thing I want to say is, if you disagree with us, don't listen to Brandon. Just draft better.
Oh, I'm also just
yeah.
noticing. I don't know why, but oh my. Okay, I understand. I noticed that DS nicknamed his Ursaring Brandon. I had no idea, but then I remember that Ice always calls me Big Bear, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
that
dude,
makes
it's
a lot
Big
more
Bear.
sense. Okay. Anyways, yeah, that's gonna do it for us. And yeah, good luck to all of you D League coaches through this season. And I guess we'll might see you after week 3. Bye.